start now ya, Pak Ian, Elis, so we can start now ya.
Sure.
Oke. Alright then, so teman-teman terima kasih udah hadir on time. Kita masih nunggu beberapa teman-teman lagi yang hadir di sini yang harus kita admit dulu. Kita langsung mulai aja ya teman-teman ya. Perkenalkan, selamat siang, selamat sore. Perkenalkan nama saya Ghazali Rahman. Saya adalah staf Kaplan Edupac. Saya sebagai marketing. So sekarang kita akan memulai tema dari materi kita hari ini adalah Preparation Smart Score High. Jadi mendapatkan persiapan yang terbaik akan mendapatkan hasil yang maksimal. Nah, oke, kita langsung mulai aja. Kita langsung bacakan rundown-nya. Rundown-nya adalah 5 menit. Kita akan start dimulai dari saya. Opening remarks, kita akan beritahu tentang Kaplan itu apa, segala macam. Nah, terus langsung dikenalkan oleh keynote speaker kita adalah Fewings, dia Specialist IELTS Tutor. Hai Elis. So jam 4 sekitar 15 menit kita akan ada Q&A dan juga nanti ada voucher-voucher hadiah segala macam. Oke, sebelum kita mulai, kita akan masuk ke rundown. Ada baiknya kita coba setel video dulu ya, ininya ya. Oke, hold second.
Apa yang mainin?
Oke. Ya, langsung kita mulai saja.
Ada hitam-hitamnya tuh.
Strategi yang dimana kita dengan gejala ekspektasi kategori sampai kasusnya di bawah 9, pokoknya 8,8. Boleh nggak kita kasih? Boleh. Ingat, buat grafik tulis bawah atau tulisnya. Nah, misalnya itu kita start dari kemudian tempat dia
Aku di mana pengen
ini putri yang wireless.
Aku minta loh.
Kita evaluasi.
Dan saya melihat signifikansi kenaikan di mana hampir mendekati sempurna.
Tutor yang luar biasa.
Enggak. Ada
Membuat saya menjadi the most improvement untuk 3 kategori, the most improvement TOEFL, the most improvement GRE kuantitatif, dan the most improvement GRE verbal.
Oke, terima kasih teman-teman. Sekarang kita kembali lagi ke PPT-nya. Kita mulai dari saya akan sedikit membacakan tata tertib tadi, rundown sudah. Jadi kita sangat memohon untuk selama webinar berlangsung, mikrofon partisipan itu kita di-mute terlebih dahulu, kecuali dari kita sendiri yang ingin mengaktifkannya atau seperti itu. Nah, terus Mikrofon boleh diaktifkan saat sesi Q&A. Video boleh dalam kondisi on, tapi syaratnya peserta seminar harus berpenampilan sopan. Baik, itu saja dari saya. Nah, sekarang saatnya kita akan lanjutkan ke sesi oleh Pak Ian. Sesi dari presentasi ini. Pak Ian? Pak Ian?
Halo, ya.
Ya, udah. Oke, baik Pak Ian. Pak Ian, bisa silakan dilanjutkan, Pak.
Oke. Selamat siang semuanya. Oke, pada kesempatan ini, kesempatan yang berbahagia ini kita bertemu kembali. Mungkin dari teman-teman juga ada yang pernah ikut, dan bagi peserta yang baru, saya ucapkan selamat datang untuk mengikuti acara webinar ini. Oke. Ya, oke. Perkenalkan, saya dengan Ian dari Kaplan Edupac Headquarter di Jalan Jenderal Sudirman, Kafling 48A, tempat di mana Kaplan berada. Nah, pada kesempatan ini saya akan membawakan mengenai apa sih Kaplan itu, apa sih Kaplan Edupac. Maka mungkin informasi ini akan bermanfaat bagi teman-teman semuanya. Tentunya teman-teman di sini juga ada yang planning untuk studi keluar ya. Oke, saya yakin sih sudah banyak yang mengetahui Kaplan Edupac, dan bagi yang belum mungkin kesempatan yang tepat. Dan jangan lupa nanti pada saat akhir sesi untuk Kaplan itu nanti akan kami berikan quiz. Jadi nanti akan ada hadiah voucher ya, ada hadiah voucher. Kemudian untuk peserta webinar yang akan mengikuti ini dan sudah tercatat di sini, akan mendapatkan free IELTS Prediction Test. Oke, nanti untuk Kak Jali bisa nanti difoto, mungkin di pertengahan sebelum kita selesai. Nah, nanti dilakukan untuk foto dulu, jadi supaya tahu siapa-siapa saja yang berhak untuk mendapatkan free IELTS Prediction Test ya. Dan jangan lupa juga ada bagi mereka yang ingin mengikuti tes preparation ataupun ingin ambil preparation baik itu IELTS, TOEFL, SAT, Gmat maupun GRE. Nah, nanti ada kesempatan untuk cek di barcode untuk mendapatkan diskon up to 2 juta. Oke. Ya. Pertama-tama ini kita bisa lihat di tampilan untuk slide kita ini, Kaplan itu sebagai the world leader in test preparation. Apa sih the world leader in test preparation ini? Nah, oke. Ini jangan lupa ya, nanti mungkin bisa dicatat ataupun diingat untuk teman-teman, mungkin bisa saja nih saya tanyakan. Nah, yang pertama adalah kenapa Kaplan the world leader in test preparation. Jadi boleh dikatakan bahwa Kaplan itu dikenal sebagai satu-satunya penyedia tes persiapan ujian terbesar di dunia. Ya, sudah cukup lama, lebih dari 80 tahun telah memberikan jasa persiapan tes sebagai salah satu sekolah terbesar di dunia yang concern di persiapan ujian. Oke, itu satu. And then yang kedua adalah Kaplan itu sudah tersebar lebih dari 240 cabang di dunia. Jadi tidak hanya di Indonesia ya, ada Singapura, Aussie, UK, dan lain-lainnya, di mana terdapat 162 center di Amerika. Itu yang kedua. Dan yang ketiga adalah dengan pengalaman selama ini, Kaplan telah membantu lebih dari 3 juta siswa untuk mempersiapkan diri menghadapi ujian dalam mencapai tujuan baik itu ke perguruan tinggi ataupun ke karirnya masing-masing. Oke, nah itu 3 ya, bisa diingat ataupun bisa dicatat bagi teman-teman untuk mengenai kenapa CEO ya Kaplan itu world leader in test preparation. Oke, next untuk slide-nya Kak Yali. Ya, kenapa sih kita perlu belajar di Kaplan? Kenapa sih harus di Kaplan? Nah, ini Kaplan sendiri sebagai satu-satunya kursus persiapan TOEFL atau persiapan SAT, Gmat, GRE itu yang mempunyai website. Jadi ada seperti kita tahu di situ adalah www.captest.com. Nah, di mana di sini persiapan ataupun di online kami ini mirip dengan tes resmi secara online dari Amerika. Nah, seperti kita ketahui ya, tes sekarang ini kan sudah banyak sekali yang online. Jadi karena student perlu latihan skill strategi maupun time management, jadi pilih lembaga yang memang sudah punya latihan mirip dengan aslinya atau mempunyai website sendiri. Oke, untuk yang kedua adalah Kaplan itu mempunyai original material. Jadi kita sudah provide ya material sendiri. Kemudian tentunya sudah melalui research and development ya, di mana ahli bahasa dapat memberikan material yang update menyesuaikan dengan perkembangan yang ada. Oke, dan yang ketiga adalah guru yang berkualifikasi tinggi. Jadi kita mempunyai atau memiliki highly qualified teacher. Nah, Kaplan ini memiliki guru-guru yang berpengalaman dalam mengajar. Jadi sehingga dipastikan setiap siswa itu mendapatkan teacher yang dapat membimbing untuk meningkatkan nilai atau skor dia.
Kalau misalnya kita bisa
kenapa kita di Kaplan? Oke, 3, kenapa di Kaplan? Lanjut, Kak Jali. Nah,
Halo Pak Ian.
sorry, oke, ini kamu ya. Oke, saya ulang. Kenapa di Kaplan? Jadi Kaplan ini adalah satu-satunya persiapan TOEFL, IBT, SAT, GMAT, GRE. Nah, kita punya practice test online ya dari captest.com. Oke, kemudian original material, materi yang khusus dipilih dengan cermat ya. Jadi material yang update sesuai dengan perkembangan. Dan yang ketiga adalah guru berkualifikasi tinggi, jadi memiliki highly qualified teacher. Oke, next Kak Richard, Kak Jali. Ya, ini adalah program-program Kaplan Edupac. Jadi kita punya GMAT, GRE untuk master, TOEFL IBT, IELTS, TOEFL ITP, dan SAT. Dan bagi mereka yang ingin improve mengenai bahasa Inggris, kita juga punya program General English, di mana kita bisa untuk upgrade mengenai grammar structure, tensesnya, kemudian untuk speakingnya. Kita juga punya program mengenai academic writing, kemudian untuk profesional juga kita punya business English, and then untuk English for academic purpose dan conversation skill. Oke, itulah program-program di mana kita punya program preparation dan program-program untuk improve bahasa Inggris yang lainnya. Oke, nanti tolong diingat. Oke. Next, Kak Jali. Oke, nah ini adalah contoh untuk placement test result. Nah, di mana untuk student-student yang belajar di Kaplan itu akan diberikan progress test. Jadi progress test ini berguna untuk dapat kita mengetahui dari awal nilai skor kita, kemudian progresnya di kedua dan seterusnya. Jadi di sini seperti contoh yang di bagian tengah, mungkin di sesi sekarang ini kan kita IELTS ya. Jadi nanti akan terlihat di mana diberikan progress test, baik itu listening, reading, kemudian writing maupun speaking. Oke, untuk skor TOEFL tahu ya, untuk TOEFL IBT 120, kemudian skor IELTS 9, dan untuk yang SAT itu 1.600. Oke, next. Selanjutnya, placement test result. Nah, ini untuk yang master, itu ada contoh mengenai placement test result untuk GMAT maupun GRE. Oke, nah di mana kalau untuk skor GMAT, top skornya 800, kemudian kalau untuk GRE, 170 untuk per masing-masing sectionnya ya. Kuantitatif 170, and then verbal 170. Nah, ini adalah contoh student testimonial. Ini ada peserta-peserta kita yang sudah berhasil mendapatkan skor 8,5 ataupun 8 Nah, ini pun kita bisa lihat ya di sini bahwa tidak hanya mereka yang punya hanya sekedar skor mungkin 5,5 atau 6 atau 6,5, tapi skor yang sudah cukup sih 7, mereka masih perlu untuk improve lagi. Jadi mereka berhasil mendapatkan skor yang maksimal di 8,5 maupun 8. Oke, next Kak Jali. Ya, ini adalah beberapa student-student kita yang sudah selesai mengambil persiapan preparation baik IELTS maupun GRE dari salah satu company. And then next. Oke, nah ini juga ada student-student kita yang sudah berangkat. Nah, ini adalah klien-klien kita yang telah mempercayakan Kaplan Edupac sebagai tempat untuk test preparation. Oke, next. Ya, untuk selanjutnya ini adalah program ataupun istilahnya kita selain untuk preparation, nah kita juga punya divisi ataupun edu expert itu yang dipercaya untuk memberikan konsultasi atau pengurusan mengenai studi keluar. Jadi baik nanti mulai dari konsultasinya, kemudian gimana sih untuk registration online-nya, sampai kepada pengurusan visa, kemudian nanti misalnya ada interview seperti itu nanti bisa dipersiapkan, kemudian ada flight ticket, accommodation, kemudian setelah diterima, student akan kita berikan briefing untuk menjelang keberangkatan, baik terus kemudian pengurusan mengenai dokumen-dokumennya sampai keberangkatannya. Oke. Next, Kak Jali. Ya. Nah, saya rasa cukup untuk mengenai apa sih itu Kaplan Edupac. Jadi mungkin tadi sudah banyak yang tercatat juga ataupun mengingat. Nah, ini seperti yang saya sampaikan di awal bahwa di kesempatan di Ramadan Great IELTS ini kita akan berikan istilah diskon up to 2 juta. Jadi berlaku untuk TOEFL, IBT, IELTS, GMAT, GRE maupun SAT. Nah, jangan lupa juga nanti di scan ya untuk mendapatkan promo. Jadi itu ada barcode, mungkin kalian bisa sambil scan. Kemudian bagi mereka nanti yang sudah mengikuti acara ini, nanti mohon kamera on semua dengan namanya sesuai ya, dengan nama pendaftaran untuk kami foto. Jadi nanti akan kami berikan free placement test. Ya, jadi kesempatan untuk kalian untuk mendapatkan free placement test IELTS. Oke. Next, Kak Jali. Ya, ini kalian juga akan mendapatkan voucher ya. Bagi yang menjawab pertanyaan, nanti kalian akan mendapatkan voucher 1 juta untuk program TOEFL, misalnya ambil IELTS ataupun SAT, ambil GRE ataupun GMAT. Oke. Baik, Kak Jali, kita berlanjut untuk kuisnya ya, Kak? Ya.
Ya, betul Pak Ian.
Oke, ini adalah nanti kalau misalnya teman-teman ingin mengetahui program lebih lanjut, jadi free consultation bisa menghubungi saya dengan Ian, ada nomor yang sudah tertera di situ yang bisa dihubungin, kemudian barcode. And then kalau misalnya ada yang ingin konsultasi mengenai studi ke luar negeri, ada Richard. Nah, di situ Richard akan membantu untuk konsultasi free mengenai program pengurusan studi. Oke, Kak Jali, untuk bisa kita mulai ya. Mungkin teman-teman juga sudah siap ya?
Ya, betul, siap.
Oke. Pertanyaan pertama, kira-kira ada yang masih ingat nggak ya? Kenapa Kaplan disebut sebagai the world leader in this preparation, test preparation? Oke, jadi kalian bisa unmute, kemudian on kamera, jadi nanti biar mungkin Kak Jali bisa lihat siapa yang mau menjawab. Silakan.
Ya, teman-teman. Oke, Aulia. Aulia mau jawab ya, Aulia. Silakan di-unmute, Aulia. Aulia sudah angkat tangan. Aulia Olfamia. Oke, ayo Aulia silakan langsung jawab pertanyaannya.
Yuk, Kak Aulia, silakan.
Ya, tadi
Ya, Kak Aulia ini sekarang aktivitas apa ini? Kuliah atau sekolah?
memilih Kaplan, karena Kaplan itu satu-satu.
Ya, ini kuliah atau sekolah atau
Halo.
yang kerja?
Kerja.
Oh, sudah. Oke. Baik. Oke, kenapa sih Kaplan disebut sebagai the world leader in test preparation?
Pertama, karena Kaplan satu-satunya persiapan yang punya website www.kapset.com. Kemudian Kaplan itu original dan guru-gurunya berkualitas tinggi. Seperti itu.
Yakin jawabannya? Masih bisa diberikan
Ya.
waktu?
Sudah oke ya, Aulia ya? Masih ada
Ya,
kesempatan?
oke.
Oke, mohon maaf untuk jawabannya salah. Jadi kenapa Kaplan sebagai world leader in test preparation? Oke, silakan Kak Heri.
Halo Kak Heri. Ayo langsung unmute.
Ya.
Iya, Pak.
Dari mana nih Kak? Sekarang aktivitas di bidang apa?
Udah kerja sekarang, Pak.
Oke.
Oke, bagus.
Baik, oke.
Bidang kesehatan.
Oh, oke, ya. Silakan.
Yang pertama, Pak, Kaplan sudah memiliki pengalaman lebih daripada 80 tahun.
Ya.
Kemudian yang kedua, sudah memiliki cabang lebih daripada sebanyak 250 cabang.
Oke. Lanjut.
Pak Ian, satu lagi apa, Mas Heri?
Satu lagi?
Memiliki lebih daripada 3 juta siswa.
Oh.
Ya, oke, Kak, selamat ya Kak Heri. Jawabannya tepat.
Congratulations
Kenapa
Kak Heri.
Kaplan dikenal sebagai satu-satunya penyedia tes preparation ujian terbesar ya, jadi world leader in test preparation. Oke, jadi sudah cukup lama, lebih dari 80 tahun, kemudian sudah tersebar lebih dari 240 cabang, and then Kaplan istilahnya sudah berpengalaman membantu lebih dari 3 juta siswa. Silakan Kak Eri bisa chat untuk nomor mobilenya untuk kami hubungin ya Kak.
Betul.
Oke Kak Eri, thank you ya. Oke.
Yes, masih Pak.
Ya, thank you. Oke. Bisa nanti ditulis ya nomor teleponnya ya Kak.
Ya, siapa lagi Pak Ian?
Ya, pertanyaan kedua. Oke, pertanyaan kedua, kenapa kita perlu belajar di Kaplan? Kenapa harus di Kaplan untuk belajar test preparation? Silakan. Siapa?
Ada lagi yang mau jawab?
Oke, Kak Melani ya?
Kak Melani, ayo silakan Kak Melani.
Ya, Justice, oke.
Iya Pak, halo.
Selamat sore ya ini ya, menjelang sore.
Sore Pak.
Ini dari mana Kak? Sekarang aktiviti kuliah, kerja, atau sekolah?
Sebelumnya saya izin memperkenalkan diri. Perkenalkan nama saya Melani. Saya saat ini seorang mahasiswa jurusan Computer Science di Universitas Negeri Medan.
Wow. Oh, di Universitas Negeri Medan. Oke, good.
Oke Pak, jadi saya izin menjawab ya Pak.
Ya.
Yang pertama, kenapa harus memilih Kaplan? Yang pertama, satu-satunya kursus persiapan TOEFL, ITBT, SAT, GRE, GMAT di Indonesia dengan online practice test dan progress test dari Kaplan USA. Yang kedua, original material. Semua materi kursus dipilih dengan cermat dan dapat disesuaikan sesuai permintaan. Dan yang terakhir, guru di Kaplan berkualitas tinggi karena Kaplan itu memiliki bilingual teacher, Pak, yang sangat berpengalaman dalam mengajar.
Oke, good. Oke, selamat Kak Melani. Oke, jawabannya tepat sekali. Jadi satu-satunya sekolah persiapan yang punya website sendiri, captest.com, mirip dengan tesnya. Kemudian yang kedua adalah original material, dan ketiga adalah mempunyai guru berkualifikasi tinggi. Oke, Kak Melani bisa di-chat nomor mobilenya, nomor handphone, dikirimkan ke kami untuk kami hubungi nanti. Oke, selamat ya Kak Melani. Ya, Melani ya. Oke, di-chat. Oke, pertanyaan terakhir ya Kak Jali.
Boleh Pak Ian.
Pertanyaan terakhir, ada yang bisa sebutin nggak program di Kaplan itu ada apa aja sih? Minimal ya 4 lah. Oke, Kak siapa ini? Frankie ya?
Kak Frankie. Iya
Yo.
betul, ada dua nih, Kak Frankie dulu deh, habis
Ya,
itu
Kak Frankie.
Hansel. Ayo Kak Frankie, bisakah jawabnya? Silakan di-unmute Kak.
Iya, halo.
Halo, selamat
Halo.
sore Kak Frankie, apa kabar?
Selamat sore Pak Ian dan Pak Jali.
Oke.
Saya baik. Tadi udah saya catat, jadi program-program yang ada di Kaplan itu ada ada General English-nya, kemudian ada Academic Writing, ada untuk Business English-nya, kemudian ada English for Academic Purpose atau EAP-nya, Conversation Skill-nya, ada TOEFL IBT, SAT, TOEFL ITP, GRE, GMAT, dan IELTS.
Oke, good, lengkap sekali. Oke, terima kasih Kak Frankie, selamat ya. Untuk
Baik, selamat Kak Frankie.
Terima kasih,
Mohon
Pak
maaf,
Ian.
Kak Hansel belum mendapatkan kesempatan yang lainnya.
Ya, silakan dicantumkan nomor mobilenya ya Kak Frankie.
Boleh, silakan. Terima kasih Pak Ian.
Catat untuk kita hubungi kembali untuk kita bantu untuk konsultasi juga.
Oke.
Jadi 3 pertanyaan sudah cukup untuk peserta kali ini. Dan jangan lupa istilahnya nanti kita akan lakukan foto bersama untuk mendapatkan free prediction IELTS ya untuk peserta yang sudah mengikuti di sini. Oke, baik. Untuk nomor telepon jangan lupa ya, istilahnya dikirimkan di chat kita untuk para pemenang. Oke Kak Jali silakan, terima kasih untuk Kak Jali, Kak Domi, Kak Erni. Terima kasih juga teman-teman. Selamat sore.
Selamat sore, terima kasih banyak Pak Ian. Ya, akhirnya kita selesai untuk sesi untuk perkenalan Kaplannya. Nah, sekarang kita masuk ke materi utama kita. So, let me introduce our speakers, Alice Fewings. Please welcome Alice. Hi Alice. Alice, I can hear you. I cannot hear you, Alice. Yeah. No, I still cannot hear you.
Really, you can't hear me?
Oh yes, yes. Now I can hear you. I can.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
that is a relief. I am glad you can hear me.
Yeah.
You heard me before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you can hear me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. What about the others? You can send me the text box if you can.
Yeah. Can
clearly
you hear me? Okay. I really hope. I really hope so. Well,
so I can hear you clearly already, Alice. Yes, it's your turn, Alice.
Well, it's very, very nice to meet all of you. My name is Alice. I've been working for a long time as an IELTS tutor. And when I lived in Jakarta before the pandemic, I also worked as an IELTS speaking and writing examiner. I'm here today to tell you a bit about the structure of the IELTS test and to give you some tips as to how you can maximize your IELTS score. So tell me, can you see this?
Yes, I can see this one.
That is great. Okay, tonight I say tonight because I'm in Australia. It's already 7 p.m. here. I think it's still afternoon in Jakarta. Well, this afternoon, we're talking about skills and strategies for getting a great IELTS score. The IELTS test is divided into 4 sections, and each section has equal weight. each section is 25%, so they're all equally important. The listening takes 30 minutes. There are 4 sections, 2 dialogues, or sometimes group conversation, and 2 monologues. And each total of 40 questions. Each section has 10 questions. You'll hear each section only once. In reading, it takes 60 minutes, and there are 3 sections. Each one is more difficult than the other. The first section has 13 questions, the second has 13, and the third has 14 questions. In writing, you write 2 essays. What kind of essay depends on whether you do the academic or the general training. There are 2 sections. The first should take about 20 minutes. The second should take about 40 minutes. And the speaking, it's only 14 minutes, but it's pretty intense. It's divided into 3 sections. And the number of questions will depend, I guess, basically depend on your response, depend on how much the examiner can fit into that 14 minutes. Okay, let's talk a bit about the listening. The first one you hear, the first section, you'll hear usually 2 people speaking, and it will be generally concerning a university campus, but it won't be an academic subject. It will be people discussing their social needs about a campus. They might be giving directions. They might be talking about some changes to university procedures, some changes to, for example, the cafeteria or the accommodation. And the next part will be similar, but it will be one person. He or she might, for example, be giving directions around the university, be telling people how to open a bank account on campus, how to get a gym membership on campus, how to apply for the various clubs or activities that might be available. In the third section, you'll hear a group of people, sometimes 2, but usually 3 or 4. It can be a group of students, or it can be students with a lecturer, and they'll be discussing an academic subject. For example, they might be discussing what topic to use for their presentation, or what they want to do their thesis or assignment on. The fourth one will be an academic subject. It's a lecture, similar to what you'd hear in a first year lecture at university. Could be on science, anthropology, history, politics, basically any university subject. Although probably a language-based one. It won't include a lot of maths or physics or anything like that. Okay, so when you do the listening, you have some time before to look at the questions and you can predict the answers. So don't waste the time before. Make sure you just think about what answer to expect, and they will be in order. Okay, so the first one. We're listening for her last name, right? First name is Elizabeth. We're listening for her surname, her family name. And make sure you check the instructions. No more than 3 words or a number. How about the second one? What are we listening for here? Can anyone say? Can anyone guess there? Anyone? What are we listening for? Okay, we're listening for probably a number and a name, right? A house number and a street name. And how about the third one? What are we listening for? Can anyone guess?
Can anyone answer it? Kadek, do you want to answer, Kadek? Kadek, okay.
Okay, so the third one, can anyone answer?
If you want to answer, you can unmute your microphone.
Please.
Okay, there is one chat. Let me check.
Contact number, Miss.
Yep.
Contact
listening
number.
to your number.
Okay, contact
That
number.
is correct. Jessica Effendi, that is correct. We're listening for a number. And how about number 4? What are we listening for?
A date, Miss.
A date, that is correct. So like today, it's the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. I hadn't even realized that today is April Fool's Day. No one's played any tricks on me yet, but it is April Fool's Day today. Say it like 1st of April or April 1, something like that. And number 5, what are we listening for?
Time, like what time it happened.
Yeah, that's right. It's 7:05 here in Adelaide. 3.5 hour time difference. So in Jakarta, it's what, 3:35? And number 6, what are we listening for?
Like something, you know, the name of thing.
Yeah, reasons, examples, right? Some evidence. So we're listening for some reasons for some examples. And how about number 7? What are we listening for?
Like the illness, sick or ill.
Yeah, some kind of injury maybe, like head injuries, hand injuries, leg injuries. Serious, some form of serious injuries perhaps. Yes, some form of injury. So always, when you do the IELTS listening, the really important thing is you predict the answers beforehand. Okay, here are some tactics for listening. Read the instructions. This is very important. Make sure you check how many words and how many numbers you can include in your answer. And predict the answers. You can, by reading the questions before the tape player starts, you can pretty much predict the answer, you know, like name of a person, name of a place, number, and listen very carefully. You only hear the listening once, so make sure you listen very, very carefully. You won't hear it again. But if you miss an answer, okay, don't feel upset, just move on. But remember, in IELTS, you don't lose points for giving the wrong answer. If you're not sure about your answer, just write it down. You won't lose any points for giving the wrong answer. Better that you guess the answer than leave it blank. And look out for paraphrasing. They're not going to give you the exact word, of course. That would be too easy. You need to listen for the synonyms. Listen for the synonyms or the paraphrasing. If you don't know a word, well, perhaps you can ignore it. Perhaps you can work it out from context. And you do need to take care with the spelling and grammar, because if there's a mistake, they're going to mark it as wrong. If it's a spelling, if you make a spelling mistake, they mark that as wrong in listening and in reading. If you make a mistake with singular or plural, that will be marked as wrong. They are very strict in IELTS, so remember to be careful about that. You do get some time to check your answers. And get used to the British accent. Yes, IELTS is a British test. It comes from Cambridge. They have mostly British, especially English, accents in the recording. And my experience, most Indonesians are more familiar with American accents because the US has a much bigger film and television industry than the UK. So that's what people hear a lot of. So you do need to get used to the British accent. Fortunately, these days, it's pretty easy because you can just listen to the BBC, listen to podcasts. There are a lot of different accents on the internet and you can listen for free. Here's an example of how you can listen carefully. In IELTS, there are a lot of tricks. There are a lot of distractors. don't assume the first answer is the correct one, okay? Don't assume you've heard the answer. They say, so it is, LOREN-HANSON. Don't write that down, keep listening. It is LORENHAMSON. Okay, the first one was a trick. It was a distractor. Make sure you listen carefully and write down the correct answer. And paraphrasing. They will always use synonyms, use paraphrasing in IELTS, in listening and reading. Otherwise, it would be too easy. Otherwise, everyone would get 9. Okay, we have these words, after the exam. Can anyone find a paraphrase of after the exam in the paragraph below? Anyone?
About the test yesterday.
The test yesterday, good. The test yesterday. And meeting. Can anyone find a paraphrase of meeting?
Appointment.
Appointment, good job. That is correct. So listen for the paraphrasing, and you can even predict it before the test. When you're reading the questions, you can even predict what some of the paraphrases, some of the synonyms will be. Let's talk now about IELTS reading. Okay, they have different reading for academic and general training. Even though the listening and speaking are the same, the reading and writing are different. But just my experience, almost all Kaplan students want to do the academic IELTS. We only have a few students who are interested in the general training. In the academic, you get, well, the length is the same, the difficulty is the same. They both have 3 readings. The first reading is the easiest, the third is the most difficult. If you look at the academic reading, they're pretty similar to what you'd see in a first-year university textbook. Like you might see from a class on literature, on history, on perhaps economics or geology. But if you look at the general training, it's basically similar to like what you'd see in a magazine, like Time, Newsweek, National Geographic, or like what you'd see in a newspaper, like in the Jakarta Post. Okay, when you read, the main challenge most people have with reading is that the readings are quite long and you have 3 of them to do in 1 hour. So it's not really that the material is difficult, it's just that you're pretty pushed for time. 40 questions in 1 hour, 3 quite long readings. Okay, so make sure you read each passage just once. You won't have time to read it again and again. And read quickly, but thoroughly. Read actively. Any words that are too difficult or that you don't understand, perhaps you can skip them. Perhaps if they're really important to your answer, perhaps you can work them out from context. And you need to read actively, identifying the topic or the purpose of each paragraph. You can make a passage map. You're allowed to write on the reading paper. You're not allowed to keep the reading paper, but you're allowed to write on it. So you can just get your pen or pencil, make some notes next to the paragraph about the main idea, not using sentences, you won't have time, just make a few notes, passage map. And you need to use the keywords to guide you to similar or synonymous words and phrases. Very similar to the listening. You need to find the synonyms, find the synonyms, find the paraphrases. They will always be there, and just be aware of distractors because there will be tricks. So don't just match the words. It's not really enough to match the words. You need to be able to match the ideas. and skim actively. When you skim, looking for the main idea, make sure you're just thinking about it, reflecting on it. Some students prefer to read the questions first. Some people prefer to read the passage first. So I guess it's a good idea to practice both ways and see which works best for you. Here are some examples of true, false, and not given statements, which is a pretty common type of IELTS question. Chilies originate in South America and have been eaten for at least 9,500 years. This first sentence, people began eating chilies in the past few centuries. Is this true, false, or not given? Can anyone say, would any of you guys like to say, this first one? Is this true?
True me.
True, ma'am.
It's true.
The last few centuries, I think it's false because chilies have been eaten for the last 9,500 years. A century is only 100 years. So it sounds like people have been eating chilies for much longer than the past few centuries. How about this second one? Chilies come from South America. Is that
False. It's false, ma'am.
Are you sure?
It's true. It's true.
I think it's true.
It's true. Even though
It's true.
most
Chili originates
Indonesians
in South
love
America.
chilies, they are not from Indonesia. They are from South America. So what's the paraphrase of come from?
In South
Originate.
America.
Originate in. Good.
Originate.
In means come from. That is correct. But this third, so that's true. This third one. South Americans were the first people to start eating chilies.
Not
True,
given.
false?
Not given,
given.
ma'am. Not
Not
given.
given, ma'am.
Not given. It doesn't say that. So the text doesn't say that, so you would have to write not given. Okay, let's talk now about the speaking test. The speaking test is only 14 minutes, but it is the part that people tend to get the most nervous about. But try not to feel nervous. If you feel nervous, you will probably either talk too fast or just not talk at all. So try not to be nervous. Okay, when you go into the speaking test, they're pretty strict. You can't bring a phone, of course. You're also not allowed to wear a watch. And you're only allowed to bring your ID, like your driver's license, your identity card, your passport, any photo ID, photo ID issued by the government they'll accept, and an unlabeled drink bottle. So the drink bottle has to be clear with no label on it. Okay, so those are the two things that you're allowed to bring. And when you go into the test, the examiner will ask you to identify yourself and to say your full name, and they will check your ID and just ask you a couple of questions like where you're from. After the examiner records the details into the tape recorder, or digital recorder rather, then you do part one. Part one is personal questions, and not too personal, but questions related directly to you. And the first set of questions, they're always about your work or studies or about where you live. It's always the same, work or studies or where you live. Then there are two more sets of questions in part one. And they can be about the past, present, or future. So just be aware of what tense you're using. That's a big mistake people often make. Not thinking about what tense to use, not thinking about whether it's the past, present, or future. But just be aware of that and think about using the correct tense. The questions could be like about the past, a subject you liked at school, about the present, a restaurant you often go to, about the future, a place you hope to visit one day. And the second part, it's like a mini presentation. You're given a topic about you. For example, a time you encountered an animal, an artwork that influenced you, a lecture that you once listened to, and you need to talk about it for 2 minutes without stopping. In the third part, it's similar to part 1. It's a two-way discussion, but it's general topics, not related to you personally, but talking more in general, like how can people protect the environment? What influence has technology had on our lives? So more general topics. Here are some examples. Okay, would anyone like to answer this first question? If I say, what job do you do? Can anyone answer that? Bella,
Well, I'm a teacher.
I'm a teacher. Okay, sure. And give a little bit more information, like I'm a teacher. I teach at a primary school in Jakarta, or I teach grade 5. Give like a little bit more information. And what if someone asks you, why did you choose that particular job? What would be a good answer? Anyone can say what would be a good answer.
I'd like to answer.
Bella, go on, Bella.
Yeah.
What would be a good answer?
I have to start from the first question. Is it okay?
How about you answer? If you want to answer the first question, okay, sure.
And then I answer the next question.
Okay,
because
sure.
it's actually like
they
are linked to each other question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What job do you do? For nowadays, I'm joined the marketing office, focus on property and deliver people to buy their dream house. And why did I choose that particular job? Because I'd like to challenge myself with achieve like everyday chief and weekly chief, and I like to knowing new people like every day.
Okay,
and
Bella,
helping them to get their new houses.
Okay, Bella, that's a good answer because you gave specific reasons and examples. And you even used a collocation, like challenge myself. You used a collocation and you gave specific reasons and examples, like help people achieve. You used topic-related vocab and you gave specific reasons and examples. So that's a good answer. Thank you for sharing that, Bella.
Thank you.
What if someone asks you this question? What do you do every day? What would be a good answer there? Would anyone like to answer that?
Maybe I can answer.
Harry, go on. Yeah. Can I call you Harry?
I give a nursing caring every day, miss, for my patients.
Okay, so give some specific examples of what you do as a nurse.
Like give a personal hygiene, maybe. Give a toothbrush for my patient with the total care, and make my patient mobilization, maybe.
Sure, that's a good word. Like mobilize patients or help patients to mobilize. That's a good word because it's topic related. So make sure that's a good answer. In your answer, everyone, just make sure to be specific, right? To give some specific examples of what you do every day. How about this next one? What other work would you consider doing? Could anyone answer that?
Maybe
Frankie, yeah, Frankie, go on.
Hi, hello, Alice. How are you?
Hi, Frankie.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me a chance. So the question is, what other way would I consider doing? But I think I'm going to a little bit pull back because everything, the question also is going to be more relevant and related with those other 3 questions early. So currently I've been doing, I'm a freelancer. I've been doing freelancing in many various and different projects and tasks on the internet. Ever since the pandemic, I lost my job. So I ended up doing this kind of freelancing in the internet, like yeah, many different kinds. But if there's any other way that I really considered in doing through my passion, it is I would like to be a teacher. Would like to be a teacher because yeah, I majored from university. I went and studied for education, teaching and training class. So that's what's really I consider as my fixture. That's it. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you for sharing that. That was a good answer because you used would like. So you used a conditional would like, and you also gave a reason, a specific reason. So that was a good answer. Thank you for sharing that. Sorry, everyone, just trying to move on to the next page. It seems a bit stuck. Okay, let's talk about some, can you see this? Okay, I'm asking you, can you see this where it says common IELTS speaking mistakes? Who can see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of that, you can call me Alice. You don't need to call me ma'am. You can call me Alice. I'm actually in Australia right now. And here in Australia, most adults, we generally just call each other by our first names. In most situations, we don't use any form of title. And if anyone plans to study in Australia, I don't know if you do, but if you plan to, then that's something you will get used to here. Okay, one pretty common example, and I've seen this a lot working as an IELTS examiner, is answers are too short. Like someone says, what's your job? Doctor. Not a very good answer. So it's some pretty common question in the first section of the IELTS test. Where did you grow up? A small city in Nigeria. Okay, it's not as bad as just saying Nigeria, but it's a bit short. Better to give a few sentences, maybe 3 or 4 sentences using some
When I was only 4 years.
What's that? Yeah, better to give some specific examples, give some details, a few sentences, 3 or 4 sentences with some details, with some topic related vocab. So this second answer, the good response, that is a lot better. I grew up in a small city in Nigeria. It's about 2 hours from the capital city. The surrounding area is known to be very beautiful, but I moved away when I was only 4 years old. So honestly, I don't remember it clearly. That second response is a lot better. In any IELTS question, you want to use specific reasons and examples, topic-related vocab, a whole range of structures, different sentence structures. Sometimes you don't know what to say. Okay, just talk. IELTS is not a test of how intelligent you are. It is not a test of how thoughtful or creative you are. It is only a test of your English. So if you don't know what to say in IELTS, not in every situation in life, but in the IELTS speaking test, the best thing is just to talk. Probably the worst thing you can do in an IELTS speaking test is to say nothing or to not say enough. If you don't know what to say, just talk. But sometimes if you're just pausing, just trying to think of something to say, trying to prepare your response in your head, you could use one of these expressions like off the top of my head, it's difficult to say, that's an interesting question. It's better to use one of these than to pause for too long. You don't want to pause for too long, hesitate too much in IELTS. That is really going to reduce your band score in the speaking test. So you don't want to do that. Better to use one of these phrases. Poor vocab. Okay, this can be a very big problem in the IELTS test. You don't want to use general words like stuff, thing, everything, something, thingy, nothing. Those kind of general words are going to reduce your band score. You also don't want to use too many simple words. If we're just using simple words like happy, funny, apple, cat, too much of that, you're also going to get a low band score. You need to use more specific, precise words. Like instead of saying dog, you could mention what kind of dog you've got, like poodle. Instead of funny, maybe humorous, witty. Okay, so you want to use more sophisticated vocab, more precise vocab, and also you need some collocations, some idioms, expressions, words that go together. So we have this question, when do you think it is acceptable to be late for appointments? You could say you should always try to be on time. However, there are some occasions when it is okay to be late. Okay, that's not too bad, but it could be better, right? This second response, firstly, in my country, the traffic is terrible, so sometimes you cannot help be late because of that. Furthermore, if you're ill for an unexpected reason. Okay, this response, it's a lot better. It's including some sophisticated linking words. Firstly, furthermore, moreover. It's a lot better to use these kind of words than just to use very simple linking words like and, so, but, because. Those words are okay, but you also want to use some more complex, more sophisticated linking words. Also, this response is using some specific reasons like emergency, traffic. It's using specific reasons and topic-related vocab, and some less common vocab like arises. I'm just trying to move on to the next slide here. Okay, let's talk a bit about the writing test now. Okay, just my experience at Kaplan. Most of our students are doing the academic writing. We've had a few students who want to do the general training, which is fine for them. Maybe they hope to migrate to another country. Maybe they're planning to work in another country instead of study in another country. That's okay for them, but it's not a very common choice. we have a lot more students doing the academic than the general training. And when I worked as an IELTS examiner in Jakarta until 2 years ago, when the pandemic hit, of course, we had a lot more students doing the academic than the general. Probably more than 90% of our students were doing the academic, not the general. In the academic writing, in the first task, you will be given a graph, chart, or diagram. Well, often two. Often there are two, like a bar chart and a pie chart together, or a table and a line graph. Sometimes it's a flow chart. Sometimes it's a map. Not very common, but sometimes it's a map. And you will need to describe it. You do not need to describe every piece of data, of course. You just need to highlight the data, to contrast it, to mention anything particularly interesting about this data, like the highs, the lows, the general trends. You do not need to interpret it though. You don't need to give any reasons, any examples. You do not need to give any information from outside of the diagram. You just need to describe the data, not to interpret it. In the general training, you write a letter. Often there's some sort of problem, some sort of complaint, and in the letter, you try to resolve it. Your task 1, it should be 150 words. If you write less than 140 words, you are going to lose band score for task achievement. Task 2, 250 words, or at least 241. That's the minimum to not lose band score. They have different questions for the academic and general, different questions, but basically the same theme, an argumentative essay, a discursive essay in which you argue your case using reasons and examples. This is the sort of essay which most of you would have written at school, and which people who study more language-based subjects at university, like history, literature, which they would have written too. I'm not sure about studying maths, physics, science, engineering at university. I never studied those subjects in tertiary education, so I don't know what it's like. But yeah, if you study more language-based subjects, you will be pretty familiar with writing this kind of essay in which you argue your case using reasons and examples. Their topics in IELTS, they're not very controversial. They never mention anything like, you know, the death penalty, foreign aid, the Russia-Ukraine situation. It's more like, should children participate in, should every player in a game get a prize? Or should parents help their children with things? Should school canteens allow to sell sugary food? It's never anything too controversial. And here are some tactics for writing. Okay, don't write too little or too much. If you write more than 10 words below the word limit, like if you write less than 10 words below the word limit, like less than 141 words in task 1, less than 241 words in task 2, you will lose band score for task achievement. And if you write, say, more than 30 words below, more than 10 words below, losing 1 band score, more than 30 words below, 2 band scores, more than 50 words below, 3 band scores, not for the whole test, but for the task achievement portion, which is 25% of your score. If you write too much, you won't be penalized. You're not going to lose band score for writing too much, but you probably won't have time. You've only got 1 hour for 2 essays, so you probably won't have time to write much more than the requirement. Okay, you do need to plan your answer. Even if someone is a good writer, if you just start writing something, your writing is going to be very random. It will be not be organized. So even though you don't have much time, you need to make an essay plan. If you don't, to think what you're going to put in first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, if you don't do that, your writing will just be random. It will be disorganized. And you do need to check your answer. I know you don't have much time, but try to leave a couple of minutes at the end to just check the spelling mistakes, punctuation, grammar. And again, you should spend more time on task 2 because task 2 is 250 words. Task 1 is only 150. Also, task 2 is worth 2/3 of your score. Task 1 is only worth 1/3. So definitely spend more time, about 40 minutes on task 2. And you do need to include a variety of sentence structures. If your writing is correct but simple, you're going to lose band score. So some people, they write correctly, but the spelling is correct, the grammar is correct, but their writing is too simplistic, like just subject, verb, object, subject, verb, object, subject, verb, object, and they're using just simple vocabulary. They're not using many structures. They will not get a high band score. I saw one essay, it had almost no mistakes, but it was just too simplistic in terms of vocabulary and structures. So that candidate only got band 5. So you need to use a range of structures like participle clauses, conditionals, different tenses, complex, compound sentences, as well as simple sentences, dependent clauses, relative clauses. Okay, all of that. You want to include all of the different structures. Even if you make mistakes, it's better to try something difficult. To use different structures and make mistakes is better than just using simple structures. And read the question carefully. A lot of people, they seem to miss the question. They go off on a tangent. And if your writing is tangential, you're going to lose band score. So make sure you read the question, you understand what it says, and you answer all parts of the question. And read all instructions carefully. It might say, for example, to what extent do you agree or disagree? So you'd have to, in that case, you'd have to give your personal opinion, like, I completely agree, or I mostly disagree. I agree to a certain extent. And organize clearly. Okay, every sentence has structure. And every paragraph has structure. Every paragraph has a topic sentence and supporting sentences. Topic sentence is usually the first sentence, doesn't have to be though. And your essay has structure. It has a logical development of ideas, a flow. Academic writing cannot be just random. And write clearly. Okay, IELTS is not a test of how beautiful your handwriting is. You do not need to have nice handwriting, but it just needs to be legible. So long as they can read your handwriting, you are okay. Okay, I hope I've explained to you a bit about the IELTS test and given you some ideas, some strategies as to how you can get a good score. Would anyone like to ask me any questions? Okay, Stephen, what's your question?
Hello, good afternoon, Alice. I would like to ask you about the writing section. The requirements that we have to write about 150 words. How about we only got 140 words and we don't have much time to finish it?
140 words. Okay, try to make it 141. If you can get 141 words, you won't lose band score. 140 words though, you will lose band score for task achievement. I used to work as an IELTS writing examiner, and we don't always count the words, but if we believe the words to be below the limit, we had to count every word. Try to reach your word limit, okay? Otherwise, you'll be try to write at least 141 words in task 1, at least 241 in task 2. Otherwise, you're going to lose band score for task achievement.
Okay, all right, got it.
Okay, so try to manage your time so that you don't run out of time. But Stephen, thank you for your question.
Thank you for your answer, Alice.
Does anyone else have a question?
Yeah, anyone else has questions?
Me, Miss Alice.
Okay,
Hi,
Bella.
you can call me Alice. You don't need to call me Miss. Just call me
Okay,
Alice.
thank you. Thank you, Alice, for explaining me, especially about writing. I have a lot of problem in writing, actually. Another thing for the grammar, actually, is it really important we have to choose, you know, complicated word like paraphrase word other than ordinary word, like hungry come into starving, like something like that.
Yeah. So hungry, okay, hungry, it's not a bad word, but it is a pretty simple word. I mean, even children know that word. So if you're thinking of a word, if a word is simple or complicated, just think about whether a child, like say a preschool child, a child who hasn't gone to school yet knows that word. Like I think about, I have a niece, she's 4 years old, and she knows words like hungry. Just think about whether a child would know that word in his or her first language, a preschool child. And better to choose a more precise or more specific word like ravenous, starving. Of course, you can use some simple words, but don't use only simple words.
What I ask is how to start to, you know, like I have to start memorizing this another level of words, how to start to use it into the writing.
My experience, people who read a lot tend to have good vocab. Just my experience, people who read a lot in any language have good vocab in the language that they read in. So someone who reads a lot in English has good vocab in English, same in any language. So the best way to get more vocab is probably to read a lot, and to read, not just to read simple things like celebrity gossip, but to read more complex, more academic subjects like the better newspapers, to read the good newspapers, the more serious ones, or to read academic journals, to read some of the better news magazines.
Okay, Alice, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Bella. Would anyone else like to ask a question?
Yeah, we will wait in 5 minutes, Alice.
Okay, sure.
So if there is no one, so we will close it. This session, Alice.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, Alice.
Mutiara.
Yeah.
What is your question? Mutiara Aldita.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I just have obstacle in, listening. As you told before, when we just miss one letter, singular and plural, so it will be considered as mistake, right? So
yes.
So
you have the
I don't know. Well, actually, do you have any very specific tips to, to make our concentration and listening, because when we just like focus in the previous question, and then we will miss a lot of things in the next question, right?
That's
So
true.
what is your suggestion?
I think my suggestion is, well, firstly, listen as much as possible. And these days, because of the internet, it's very easy to find listening material. Like you can find free IELTS listening online, or not just IELTS listening. It's very easy to listen to podcasts. So it's very easy to find listening material in any language. It's free on the internet. And another suggestion, you need to predict the answers. So just predict when you look at the questions. Is this singular noun or plural noun? Or is it, you think, what verb form is it going to be? And after you do the test, you have some time to check your answers too after the listening test. And also you have the question to help you. So when you write the answer, it needs to make, you can use the question to help you because it needs to make sense grammatically. So if you see like an, you know that's going to be plus singular noun.
All right. And one more question, if it is possible.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So related to writing skill, is it true that if we like, you know, use I don't know how to say it, like more academic word, so the score will be higher than, for example, if we just want to, if we only write to solve the problem and compared to cope with the problem. So is it, you know, like the diction or the selection of the vocabulary also impact the score in writing? Is that
yes,
true?
So 25% of your writing score is for lexical range and resource. So 25% of your score is for vocab. So you want to have a range of vocab, not repeating the same words, but using a whole range of vocabulary. Also, you want vocabulary which is specific, precise, related to your topic, not general words like something, stuff, anything, everything, but specific. And also words which are less common. So Bella, before, she gave the example of starving or ravenous instead of hungry. Words which are less common, which not everyone knows, which are not among the most common words in English.
Okay, Alice, thank you very much.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. And Anna, did you have a question?
Okay, this is the last two, ya, Alice, ya. Okay, yes. Anna and Mutiara.
Yes, Alice.
Okay.
My question is, can you give me some tips for our preparation IELTS before 1 week's test, maybe, especially in speaking because it's too hard to find partner.
I think you can find a partner on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, in YouTube, there are a lot of IELTS videos. And underneath the IELTS videos on YouTube, there are a lot of people asking for a speaking partner. If you look at the IELTS videos on YouTube, so that might be a suggestion. And okay, it's a good idea to join an IELTS course, but if you can't, there are a lot of like IELTS websites on Facebook or YouTube, and people are looking for a speaking partner. So that can be an option for people who aren't able to do a course.
Okay, thank you, Alice.
Okay. And Mutiara, did you have a question? Mutiara Audita? Mutiara, did you have a question?
No.
My voice. Hello.
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 Did you hear my voice?
I hear you, yeah.
Okay, all right. I just want to ask you, is there any tips from you to find idea for the second paragraph in the writing section? Because when I'm doing the task, I feel like stuck to find idea what I have to write and what I have to begin with, and this little bit stuck in the pressure for the time. And would you have any tips for it?
The second one. Okay, so you need to respond to the question. So you have the question to help you, and you need to think of a few reasons, a few examples. It depends if it's the first or second essay. In the first essay, in the academic, you just need to describe the data. If it's the letter, the general training, maybe some reasons, some examples. In the argumentative essay, in task 2, you need to, first paragraph, maybe introduce the topic and your thesis. Second paragraph, reason or example. Third paragraph, fourth paragraph, if you have time, reason and example. And maybe fourth or fifth paragraph is your conclusion. So just some reasons, some examples. I hope that answers your question, but you have the question to help you. So the question should guide you.
Okay, Alice, I think we just finished.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Alice.
Everyone, very nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alice, for your information.
Thank you,
Yes,
Alice.
it's very useful here. So, guys, I think we finish it. So before we close it, so could you please turn on your camera, please? So we just try to bye-bye from here. So Alice, could you please close your screen? All right, then. So everyone, bye. Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Very nice to meet all of you.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you, Alice.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you.
Alice. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.
Goodbye.